I understand that. Just follow your mentor. Anna is a great mentor. We actually talk a lot with each other and get a lot of feedback from each other. She's a great,
Yes, she is.
so don't worry if it looks a little different. If Anna says it's okay, these are the new ones that we're trying to implement moving forward. So ask your mentor for the updated checklist. And if you want, let me see if I can access the chat. I'll put in my email in the chat, and you can email me for it. My email address is right in the chat. Okay. So I don't mind sending it to you. It's saved to my computer, so I'll just forward it to you, or ask your mentor.
Thank you.
And if you don't have one, is there a DA on the checklist to indicate the latest version? No, I don't think they put that. I think that no, the answer, I know, I get it. It would be helpful. I agree. But no, I don't think there's a date on here. This is the newest one that Shelly sent me. So also Shelly is another one you could email and ask for the updated one. And I get that, guys. I totally get it that it's not available, and not everybody got the new updated checklist. They're getting it out. Okay, they're going to put it on Dotloop. I'll make a note to Fernando to maybe change it and add it to Dotloop so that at least y'all can grab it out of there. Let me make a note so that I don't forget. Okay, so if not, you can email me or maybe email Shelly, and I just sent her email in the chat. But the great questions. If you're working with an outdated or not this version, we're getting this version out soon. Also, if you guys aren't using paperless pipeline yet, talk to your mentors about that. We're starting to roll. Well, we have been rolling that out. It's going to be mandatory you use paperless pipeline to upload your files by the end of the year. They're trying to get it sooner. So, and in that paperless pipeline, there is a checklist already built into it. So I get it. This is all new stuff, but that's why we're just trying to roll it out steady, Eddie. We're not trying to make everybody do something all at once, because then that just makes people confused, and we certainly don't want that. As the promise is there are different forms and different forms. And so Jeanette explained the problem I see is that there are different forms and different files, two separate packets. Yes. So when you, yeah, I get that. When you open up your Dotloop account, I'll kind of walk y'all through it, and then we'll get to the checklist.
It'd be helpful if it was just, if I would go there and not see, you know, like when I'm going to the templates, that's what I'm talking about. The templates it seemed to be that there's some duplicates, and then I'm always concerned about, gee, I wonder if I'm getting the newest or the latest or whatever. And what's the Texas United Realty /RR? Because I see that on the Dotloop, and then I see Texas United Realty, and I'm not sure, like, what am I supposed to choose? Because it's there, and I wish it would just go away, and I wish that I would just have one place to, one choice.
I agree. I've got my qualms with Dotloop. Amy pushes to use Transaction Desk. And to be honest, I don't send my contracts out through the e-signature for Dotloop. I just don't like it. And again, maybe it's because I'm ancient in this business. I actually use Zip Forms, and I use Zip Forms is an older platform. It doesn't have an e-signature integrated into it, but I use Docusign, and that is $15 a month. So Dotloop is saving you some money. I just like the control of Docusign a lot more. Well,
the issue is not the program. The issue is what the person is feeding into the program. Whoever's creating the templates is what I'm trying to say. It's not necessarily the program.
Well, Docusign, just real quick, I know I don't want to go through too many rabbit holes, but Docusign, you can grab a contract and you can kind of drag and drop a signature. Like you just hit start now, and you can literally like grab a document, and you hit and then you add your recipients, meaning all that needs is a name and an email, and then a message like Docusign, like please e-sign this. Again, this is costing me about 15 bucks a month, but back in the day, this is all we had. So it was either this or go meet your client out in the field. And believe me, I didn't have electronic signature 10 years ago. And I had to meet, even for an initial, I had to go meet them an hour away. It sucked. So when you get done adding their email, you have to add an email. Like I'm just adding myself. You can literally just drag the signature and drop it wherever with the date and then hit send. So it's pretty cool. But let me go through dot loop and kind of show you what you're talking about. So we'll add, first off, yes, there is 2 files for some people. I know it's a pain in the butt. I have to click it and then usually click my name and get on the right loop. I always thought this was because I was an admin with them, but maybe some other people have this too. You have to click your name. And then when you add a loop, let me show you a cheat here. Let me think of a property. Let me just grab one. So I'm adding a loop. I'm going to hit continue. When you select your loop, you're going to select what you're doing. You're a buyer transaction. You're representing the buyer, representing the seller, or you're doing a lease, or you're doing an apartment. So oftentimes you can just select what you're doing, like you're representing the buyer, and click next, hit done. And all the forms should be added to your file. Now, I've noticed some of my mentees didn't have this done for them, but that's because they didn't click on the link to set up their .loop account that the mentee sent them, the mentor sent them. See, I send all my mentees an invite to .loop. And when they click that, then they're automatically set up with the Texas United .loop, which the forms that you need. Like I didn't add any forms yet, they're all in here, right? Okay, the new DA request, let's see. I don't see the checklist. So that's an issue, obviously, because we don't just need the request, we need the DA checklist. This guy right here. So I don't know why it didn't pop up. You can always add it in. Let me show you how to add a file and find it. But this is pretty cool and very important. So let's say you want to add a commercial contract or the DA checklist because it didn't auto populate into here. I'm going to hit add. This is extremely important, guys. Hit add folder. You can either browse the checklist in from your computer if you got the email from me and you stayed and you maybe downloaded it to your computer or saved it to your computer. But if you go to templates and you go all the way down to the second to the bottom called Texas Realtors Interactive Documents, then you can search the DA checklist. Okay, it didn't pop up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll back up to where it says Texas United Realty Master. And I'm gonna find it through the Texas United master file. Okay, updated DA request, new DA request, DA checklist. And I'm gonna hit copy and I'm gonna hit OK. So now here is the checklist. Yes, I am gonna stay on target. We're gonna go back to the checklist. This looks like the old one that we were using. So obviously Fernando or Shelly needs to update it into .loop, which they can do. So let's not go through the old one. Let's go through the new one because this is the one we are going to be utilizing. Again, guys, I've been utilizing this old one myself. I'm just now switching over to the new one. Okay. So the DA checklist at minimum, you will need the following. This is the one that Shelly and Fernando and the team created so that everybody could be on the same page and have the newest version of what Carol wants in our files. So if you're representing a buyer, you need, and I'm going to kind of keep my .loop open so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. You guys need the DA request. That is the that is this guy. so that everybody knows how you get paid. The other version I showed y'all a little while ago, I don't see it now in my thing. That's the new version that's going to be coming out. If you're using the old version, that's okay for now. Okay, so then you're going to need the information about brokerage services, which everybody should know that one. That's required for all your clients to sign up front. Okay. You need your buyer's representation agreement. Should be one of the first forms that you have them sign as well. General information and notice to it. So what the buyer, let's back it up. What the buyer representation agreement is that's the agreement in writing showing that you have that your buyer is giving you the authorization to represent them. So without that, nothing's valid unless it's in writing. Without that, you don't have a leg to stand on. Okay, so very important. And now in the checklist, we're kind of getting to items that you would probably more so have them sign once you have them sign the 1-to-4 contract to make the offer. Okay, they need to be informed. It's general notice and information to a buyer. Information and notice is basically a disclosure to them that talks about anywhere from things about insurance. It's just kind of a CYA, cover your back, make sure that they understand everything that goes into a real estate transaction, or a lot of things that go into the transaction. Okay. Information about property insurance. We've added that form. It's a very good form. It used to wasn't there on the old checklist. Now it is in the new one. I feel like it's a very good form. It kind of explains to your buyer about insurance and why it's so important. Information about flood hazards. Again, with all the flooding that we've been having or had here lately, another form that was added, I think it was on the old checklist as well. It just explains that you need insurance and that flood insurance is different from homeowners insurance and how important it is to have. Okay, I get it. A lot of these forms are CYA forms, but nonetheless, very good forms. And again, if our client goes back and, maybe God forbid their house gets flooded and they said, well, you didn't tell me that I needed flood insurance. We can go back to this form and say, well, you signed the information about flood hazard. Of course, you should always verbally tell your clients that about flood insurance and that it's not covered under your regular homeowners insurance, and that they should get flood insurance. And they need to talk to their insurance agent about that. Okay, now we're moving on. The 1-to-4 contract, that the contract that everybody uses in a single family residential. Let me find it. It's always convoluted how they put these different files. Here we go. This is how we make an offer on a property with our buyers. It's called the 1-to-4. I'll give you this is not a webinar about the 1-to-4 contract, so I'm not going to go over it this time, but I will say one thing I tell all my mentees to do is read this contract, literally read it like a book. Read it. It's only 9 pages of reading. I'm pretty sure a book is longer than that. So actually 8 pages, because the 9th page is just a signature page. So do me a favor, read this. If I told you that I'm going to, you got to explain to your client about a book tomorrow, and all you did was read one page on one word on every page, how are you going to explain that to your client? That's the same thing as if you just fill in the blanks. All you're doing is reading 1 word on or 10 words on every page, and you're expecting yourself to understand the contract. It's never going to happen. When you read this is probably the best advice I'm ever going to give you in 18 years of doing this. Read this contract. You can say, Ryan, I don't think I'll take your 18 years of experience and you're literally telling me to read this, and that's one of the best things that you could do as a real estate agent. I don't think I'll listen to that. I don't think that's very wise, because I'm literally telling you that's one of the best things that you can do as 18 years of experience. So just take that in mind, that might be a good idea to do. Okay, your third-party financing addendum needs to be included, of course. If they're getting any type of loan through their mortgage broker, 98% of people are going to get a loan. So that needs to be included. If they're paying cash, that does not need to be included. Okay, but that's really rare. Addendum for property subject to a mandatory membership association. And again, guys, literally, you can't find these forms. You're saying they weren't already auto-populated? Okay, search it. Remember I said to go to add templates? Go down to the second to the bottom one, the master file. I want you to search the numbers, just the numbers, and see if it pops up. So the mandatory form, 1922. See, it came up. Or you can search addendum 4. You don't have to type it all out, and it'll start popping up. I'll show you. Addendum 4. There's a lot of addendums, so I need to keep going. Property. There it is. Property subject to mandatory. Click. So I just showed you 2 easy ways. Now if you go to the TUR webinar that Fernando gives out, the training folder, I actually did a webinar, my last webinar on the HOA. Again, if you need that, scroll up, email me, I'll send it to you. I did a YouTube video on the HOA addendum. It was a very good webinar. Now, if it's in an HOA, you have to have that addendum in your file. HOA is Homeowners Association. Again, I did a webinar on this. It's on my YouTube training channel that I have. And it is a very, in fact, I will give you my YouTube training channel. You get a free bonus. There you go. It's in the chat. Okay, so moving on. I don't want to keep y'all too long. Now, notice for purchase of a real estate in a water property in a water district, that's your MUD notice. So your sellers, the listing agent, the seller, has to provide your the MUD notice to you, to the buyer, up front. There's no ands, ifs, or questions about this. So if you're the listing agent, remember that on the flip side, you need to get them this and the seller's disclosures together up front before they even make the offer. How do you do that? Easy. You attach it to MLS. This is my listing, and the MUD and the seller's disclosure are all attached to my listing. So there's no mistake that I didn't deliver this up front. This is if your property is in a water district, and most of the time, unless you're way out in Timbuktu, most of the time your property is in a water district. There is YouTube videos that Texas United have done. It's on your training folder about this form. I'm not going into depth on any of these forms today, but if it's in a water district, a MUD district, you absolutely have to be upfront with it, which I have. It's right here, MUD. It's right here. I am in compliance because I have it on my HA. This is the same thing as being in compliance. Any agent can pull up this listing, click on the attachments, and find the seller's disclosure, the MUD, the survey. I have everything on here. How to find out if it's in a MUD real quick, click on this tax ID and scroll down, and it's going to tell you MUD information. Click it. This is the MUD information. Back to topic. Again, that needs to be in your folder when you're working with a buyer and a seller. We'll get over the seller's part in a minute. Let's keep with the buyer. That the MUD needs to be in there. Seller's disclosure. So the listing agent also provides you the seller's disclosure along with the MUD notice, but your buyer has to sign it. So when you're making the offer, you need to grab it off MLS or ask the listing agent for it. In this case, y'all, if you were making an offer on my listing, you would grab it off of my listing by clicking attachments, and you would upload it into your computer and scan it in and save it to your computer and send it in with the offer. Okay. I hope this makes sense. I do all of this. I do this and this up front because I need these 2 forms way up front before I even start showing them houses. And when I make the offer, I include all these with the offer, with the 1 to 4 family contract. Why not? You're docu-signing, you're docu-signing it, you're dot loop having them e-signed anyway. You might as well just have them do it all at the same time. Okay. So how do I get the seller's disclosures? From the listing agent, or the attachments on HAR. If it's not attached to HAR, then you need to call the listing agent and ask them to send it to you, to email it to you. If needed, addendum for seller's disclosure on lead-based paint. What is the trick question, pop quiz? When do you need a lead-based paint form? Can anybody answer that?
1978.
There you go. It was actually listed on the old DA checklist. It said prior to 1978. We got a winner. The theory behind that is not the theory. The reason behind that is back in the older days, paint lead. They were making paint with lead. Okay. Information about on-site sewer, if needed. When would we need that form? If there was a septic system in the yard or on the property. Okay. Survey existing and notarized T47. So they're requiring that to be in the checklist, the survey and the T47. Now, if the seller provides a copy of the survey, the survey that they had, maybe they found it in their attic or they found it on their computer, and we're going to reuse the old survey. It needs to be accompanied by a T47. Something that looks like this. Okay. Because this is from the seller stating that they've either made or haven't made any changes to the contract, to the survey. So let's say the seller has added a back deck since this survey was made. I don't want to go on a rabbit hole, but I'll make this quick. What if they added a back deck to this old survey that we used? That's not it. I need to find it now. Survey. Here we go. Survey. Let's say right back here, they added a covered back porch right back here. Well, some lenders wouldn't use this survey anymore, but some would. It just depends. Some title companies and lenders, that's their judgment call on if they would actually use it or not. But if the contract requires you to provide it, by golly, you better provide it within the days provided, or else there's actually consequences. Actually, your seller could be liable for a new survey. So make sure you follow your contract guidelines. But let's say if this was added, well, then to my T47, I would have had my sellers right in here added back covered 10 by 10 porch to back of, back door of property or back of property or back of house, however they wanted to word it. Okay. And if I provided that with that disclosure, with that on there, then I'm doing my due diligence. I'm giving the other agent, if I'm the listing agent, I'm giving the buyer's agent a copy of my survey with the T47. So Carol is asking that this also be included in your file. Again, guys, just remember when you're going through this, if you have a mentor, then they will help you with this, and they're your first line of defense. I check all my mentees' files first before I send it to the office to make sure we're in compliance. I want to do that, and I have to do that because I need to make sure all these forms are on here or on their file. And if it's missing, I'm going to say, hey, you're missing the mud notice. I need that. Okay. Your survey, we went over that. Intermediary relationship notice, that's only required if it's an intermediary intermediary deal. What is an intermediary? Easy explanation. The easiest one I'll give you. Okay. An intermediary is when let's pretend I am the listing agent. Okay. And a buyer comes to me and says, I don't have an agent. I don't have one. I don't want one. Will you put the deal together? An intermediary, that would be an intermediary, meaning I'm the agent between a rock and a hard place. The seller's here, the buyer's here. and I'm in between. If I'm the only agent in between, I'm just a paper pusher at that point. It's no appointments. They have to sign an intermediary. They have to agree to it in their buyer's representation or the listing agreement to intermediary, and I'm between them two. Now, if I'm between them two with no other agent involved, then I cannot give this person advice and I cannot give my seller advice. Okay, I'm a paper pusher. Now, let's say that Judith, let's say that you're representing the buyer and I'm representing the seller. That is still an intermediary because we work for the same broker. You understand? Now, Judith, if you're representing them and I'm representing the seller, we can give advice. It's called intermediary with appointments. Okay. Most of the time, this is not going to be the case. I'm going to represent my listing and there's going to be a Remax agent that's representing the buyer, and that's not an intermediary. Okay, moving on. Condo resale certificate, that's only if it's a condo, then most of the time the lender is going to require a resale certificate in the title company. An amendment is if you make any changes to the contract, like an extension, and a referral agreement if you have an op city deal or your maybe have a referral agreement with another agent. New construction, most people don't they think that they only need the builder's contract and they're good. That's not the case. You actually do need to sign, your buyer does need to sign certain forms. Okay. Most of them are a repeat of the above. Just remember that when you have a new home that you sell, and I get it that David Weekly or KB Homes, they have their own 1 to 4 contract that they sign. You still need to review that with your client. You need to be involved. I go to all my builder meetings. I review the contract before they sign it, but you still have a checklist you need to follow. And the bottom one is the purchase contract. That's referring to the builder's purchase contract. Okay. After closing, you're not done just yet. They want you to send them the walkthrough form to make, because of course y'all all know to do a walkthrough the day of closing to make sure nothing changed, no toilet got leaked or flooded the house. That's bad luck. It's happened to be before, guys. So make sure y'all do y'all's walkthrough and get them to sign the form. If you can't find the form, search 1925 and you'll find it. Your closing CD. Ask the title company for a copy of it if you didn't get it at closing. You should always go to your closings, by the way. I always make a point to go to my home inspections and my closings. Can't tell you how many deals that saved for me. If you're not there for the home inspection and something's your buyer is uncomfortable with, and the inspector explains it to you over the phone, you're not going to understand it as well as if you were there in person and he was pointing and showing you what was wrong. And the closing, believe me, 1,000 questions going to come up from your buyer. And if you're not there, it's never going to end well. Your closing statement. In all my 18 years, I've missed one closing. And there was a problem that popped up. I was on vacation in my defense. And there was a problem that popped up and I regretted not being there. Your closing CD, you can get a copy of this from the title company. It needs to be signed by all parties. Okay, any documents your client signed should be in this file. I agree with that. Again, I'm trying to wrap this up because we've already been on here for a little while. So make sure you guys follow. I think we've got the gist of it. When you're doing a lease transaction, these are the documents you need to have in your file. You can find it in your .loop. If not, you need to search it using how I showed you. If you're doing an apartment referral, you still have documents you need to have your buyer sign or your apartment tenant sign. And I get it. You get paid. The apartment complex will pay you, or they'll send a check to our office, but our office will not release your check until these are done. The old checklist, I think I liked it with the apartment because I always like to send the Texas United apartment invoice to the apartment complex to make sure that they do pay out and pay me. And they send the check to the office and then the office pays you. So I would actually add this Texas United Apartment invoice. Listing transaction requirements, again, why most of the forms we already went over, but we're adding a few. And then again, after closing. So it spells it out for you guys. When you're taking a listing, follow this guideline, follow this. So when I'm taking a listing, I don't do the DA. I don't fill out the DA yet because it's not under contract. I don't know what it's sold for. But I do have my seller sign these forms. Okay. The MLS printout, not yet, because I haven't put it in MLS.
I was listening to the Zoom class.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up for the questions. When we're taking a listing, why wouldn't we go ahead and get them to sign the forms that we can? Of course, we're not going to get them to sign the forms for when we negotiated a contract because we don't have a contract yet. But why not go ahead and get them to sign the water notice and the seller's disclosure? You're going to need to give that and post that on HAR along with these forms. You might as well get it out the way. And I get it. You're not going to have some of these forms till you get a contract and you've actually got it pending, or you're on your way to getting it pending. But most of these forms, you should be knocking out up front. Your seller can go ahead and sign their part of the lead-based paint. If they have no knowledge of lead in the house, then click no knowledge and have them sign it. If they have a septic system, they can go ahead and fill that out and sign it. They can go ahead and give you their survey and go ahead and notarize a T47. Condominium resale certificate. That's probably going to come later once it's under contract. So again, some of these things you knock out, about 50% you can knock out when you take the listing and you have them sign the listing agreement. And then about the other half, you need to wait to get an actual contract in. Okay. So I'm selling one of my listings right now. I actually got this one under contract just today. Hallelujah. I've had like 3 bust out. It's been an interesting ride, but the other agent did not have to text me or call me one time to ask for forms that she needed. Why? Because they're already posted on MLS. They're already signed by my seller. All she had to do was have her buyer sign them. So questions, comments, concerns? Anything related to, I also do commercial. So anybody, can if you want to find the commercial forms, same thing. You can actually search it. It's not all, it doesn't load up on here. No problem. Add loop, templates, go to the second to the bottom. Type in commercial. Oh, look, all the commercial forms popped up. If y'all need to leave, you can. I know I've gone long, but if you want to stay, ask me questions, I'm here.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
This is Dorian. Okay, so on the listing transaction, MLS printout, and the tax report, I would assume the one is showing that it's sold. Is that correct?
No, actually, you can go ahead and add it into your paperless pipeline, or if you're still emailing in your files to the office, you can add it pending. I'm going to add it to.
Okay, you can add it pending. Okay, yeah. And then the tax report would be from HCAT, correct?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So right now, I would actually print this to PDF.
Okay.
I'm not going to print it out because I don't want to waste my paper ink. I'm going to print it to PDF. It's pending. I'm getting my file together.
Okay.
To submit to the office, because even I have files. And then I'm going to click. I'm going to save it to MLS to my computer, and then I'm going to click the tax rolls, and I'm going to print this to PDF.
Okay.
Save it to my computer.
Oh, that one. Okay, the one that's in the MLS, and that's the one they want.
Sure.
You don't have to go out to HCAT to grab that one.
No, that's a pain. No.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem.
And then they want now, because this is new for me, the approval letter or proof of funds. Correct?
Yeah, no, that is new. It's not on the old checklist. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
But
buyer's walkthrough is gonna come from the buyer's agent, correct?
if you're, yes, so after
Even
closing,
though you're representing the seller.
I know, but then you would have to ask the buyer's agent for a copy of it.
Yeah. Okay.
I usually
And-
do it.
and- Yeah, and the signed closing disclosure is gonna be both parties that has to be the signature on there, correct?
Sometimes the title company will only give you the copy that your buyer signed or
Yeah.
your seller signed.
Yeah.
And then I submit that because
Okay.
that's the only thing I got. But
Okay.
if they send me the one with both, then I send the one with both. Great question.
Thank you.
Great question. So if I'm at the closing and I'm the listing agent, of course I didn't have the buyer's walkthrough signed because I don't represent the buyer. But I asked the buyer's agent kindly, can you kindly send it, email it to me? Or at closing, if I happen to see them, I ask the title company to make a copy for me. And then the pre-approval letter, you should have that because that was probably sent to you via email along with the offer. If it wasn't, you probably should be asking the buyer's agent for their pre-approval letter before your seller accepts their contract.
No, I always get it, but it's just, I didn't know we had to turn it in.
Oh,
That's-
yeah. No. I think, I know you knew that. I was just saying, kind of
you.
for everybody in the class. But yes, it wasn't in the old checklist. You're right. It was not. But again, this checklist is fairly new, so don't be too taken aback by some of the changes. It's just, this is what the direction we're heading, okay? And I get it, if you don't have a copy of this yet, you can ask Shelley for it. This is just what I was told that the new one that we want to start implementing, okay? It's even new for me. That's why I kind of had to look around on it for a couple of things because even I was a little unfamiliar with it. But I like it better. I think that it's more I think it's better than this one as far as the explanation goes, wherever it is, because the old DH checklist, because I mean, it didn't really, like, this is giving more like if needed, and then new construction, and then after closing. I like this one a whole lot better. For sure. Any other questions? Judith, did you ask a question? Good class. Yep, thank you. I think sometimes I'm long-winded, but I just like to be thorough. So. Anybody else have any questions? Anything. I don't know everything, but I'll be glad to answer anything, or when we're, it doesn't even have to be about this topic. It can be about anything. I will say that, and you can exit if you don't have any question, you can exit, but I will say that a tip, when I'm representing the buyer, I just had a closing, and what I'd like to do is, and if I'm the listing agent, what I like to do is I do the walkthrough on my, right before the closing. So it's just more time convenient. So if the closing's at 1, I figure out how far the way the title company is from the house, and I'll get to the house, giving myself about 30 minutes to do the walkthrough, because you don't have to relook it. You're not showing the house. They already understand what they're buying. You're just making sure there's no broken windows, no water leaks. Water is not our friend in real estate. And then I have them sign at the walkthrough, the buyer's walkthrough form, because we did the walkthrough, so now they can sign it. And then I bring that to closing, and sometimes I'll ask the title company, hey, can you scan this in and email it to me? And then I have my laptop at closing, and I'll go ahead and upload the file at closing. Why not? And I'm there anyway. At closing, you're just making sure everything's kosher. So you can bring your laptop and do that, or scan it in when you get home. But so, little tip, on my way to closing, I make the detour. I have my clients meet me at the house to do the walkthrough. So in this instance, it was in Katy, and the title company was in Katy. I met my clients at the house at noon. The closing was at 1. I did the walkthrough. I had them sign the form. I asked the listing agent if I could keep the keys in the lockbox. Because again, this is going to save you a trip. Hold on just a minute. And the listing agent said, absolutely, I'm going to go take the super off. So I want you to take the key out of the lockbox. I took the key out of the lockbox, opened the door, put the key in my pocket, because this is the last time you're showing the property to them. They're about to close, remember. Again, when you're doing a showing, obviously, you don't want to do this, but I'm about to close. I'm not trying to say y'all don't already know this. I'm just trying to make sure I cover all my eggs in this basket. So I put the key in my pocket and I go ahead and sign the walkthrough form. That's a good time to take a picture with them in front of their new house with their permission. Then we load up and they get in their car and I get in my car and we go to closing. At closing, they sign all their documents. I had the walkthrough form signed. I asked the title guy, hey, when you go back to your desk with the paperwork, can you go ahead and scan this in? And oh, by the way, can you send me that signed closing disclosure too when you send me this walkthrough form? He said, absolutely, I can. Boom, I don't even have to do it. Scan it in when I get home. He scanned it in, sent it to me. I popped open my laptop, went ahead and uploaded into Paperless Pipeline, the walkthrough and the final closing CD because they signed it. And I'm done. And then I said, hey man, when is this going to fund? He said, oh, this lender is pretty good. It'll probably be within the hour. You cannot give your buyer the key till it funds. Okay, but it's in my pocket. But at this point, now I don't have to go all the way back to the house. I don't have to chase them around town. Usually the buyer is okay with sticking around, or we'll go get some coffee, or if they don't, meaning now I have the keys and I'm not having to go back to the house and open up the Supra. And when it funds, I give them the keys. Then I ask the title company for my check because I already have my DA filled out. And it's a disbursement allowing me to go ahead and get my check directly from the title company. So these are shortcuts I'm giving y'all to save time, because who doesn't want to save time? And I figured all this out by doing this for so long. So again, I'm not giving them the keys before funding. But sometimes funding is almost instantaneous. Sometimes the lenders have already gotten the wire pre-sent to the title company, and the title company just needs to show proof that they signed the documents, and they give an authorization number to release the funds. So I've gotten paid 10 minutes after closing before. So when I get my check, that means it's funded, by the way. I get my check, I give my buyer the key, I go home. I've got my photo. I usually take a photo at the title company too of me and them, because again, you want to show Facebook or social media presence, right? And what better way to get more business than advertising the one you just did? So, but I'm done. I got my photo at the house. Remember when I did the walkthrough? They signed the walkthrough form. I gave them the key because it's funded. I got my check, gave them the key, got my check. I already sent in my closing disclosure to the office and the walkthrough form. I go home, go to the next one. So, all right, guys, I'm going to end it at that. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Okay?
Thank you, Ryan.
You're welcome.
Thank you. It was
Thank you,
a great
Ryan.
class.
You're welcome. Y'all are all very welcome. It's a pleasure.